Rap circle. I'm better than you. Period. Not at all concerned what it hit for, cause I've still come to raise hell like Mephisto. Please don't front, cause I'll karate chop your lymph node. Noodle arm punk you punch and end up with your wrist broke. Don't need a 4-heater, but you come 4 feet approach me. I'm summoning focus of Gogeta. Slight work, so imagine me chilling when folks meet up, cause my purpose to have me relaxing with both feet up. Get the cream, precious metals or the crypto things. Your bars are light like the one that's on a Smith machine, but my Maxwell and I ain't speaking about the pretty wings. Watch your potty mouth or clean it out with the Listerine. I got a list that mean eclipsing me is not an instant thing. You about as generic as antihistamines. Listening is not your strong suit, that's why you fiddling. Focus on the wrong stuff, your bluff is getting bucked. What you are witnessing is greatness. Outpacing these cats that I'm racing are not cheaters. They house cats are straying outdated. Rhymes got as much meat as about a raisin, just face it. While I'm steady on the track, you with your bags at the station. What I'm rated? S-class minimum. You sad synonym, cause I'll bag 10 of them. And you brag at dinner, but your impact is minimal. I toe tag in intervals with no lag, precision that critical. You imbecile. I'm at the top figures. I don't even want to be involved with you. The way I am because I want it all quicker. And I ain't stopping till the family all richer. Not gonna lie, yeah, I'm at the top figures. I don't even want to be involved with you.
Greetings, everybody. Welcome. We have with us today a huge figure, a major phenomenon in the indie scene, the one, the only Mr. Eric July. Thank you so much for being here, sir.
Oh, I appreciate you. I appreciate the intro, by the way, and I appreciate you having me here.
Yeah, it's a huge honor. So love the opportunity to talk about Rippaverse. That's taking the comic world by storm right now. Made a huge impact at San Diego Comic-Con. A lot of positive feedback. I heard tons of creators coming up to you. Everybody's a buzz about it, wants to get in on it. Did you want to tell us a little bit about that? What was the reception like at SDCC?
Yeah, so that was my first time going to San Diego Comic-Con, yeah, it was humbling, man. I mean, it was a great time. I had a great time, but you know, obviously being approached by as many people as we got approached by, be it fans or and supporters and customers, to people that are actually in the industry, and you know, they were very encouraging, wishing me well, congratulations, and just really demanding that I keep going. So it was a great time and a great experience, certainly to talk with folks in the industry, and it's a constant reminder that, you know, what we're doing resonates obviously with so many people, and so many people find it to be a positive thing. For what we're attempting to do with this industry. So, you know, it was a great experience. It's all around great experience.
Well, and it's with merit, absolutely. Looking at ISOM 2, the campaign's already surpassed $2 million after the 3.7 million ISOM 1 did. I mean, those are just astronomical numbers for a comic book. Like, you are in like a stratosphere all on your own at this point. What's it feel like to be doing that kind of business?
Well, it is still surreal, to do what it is that we're doing like that within the year, to have back-to-back campaigns. It means a lot. It shows a lot. It's very telling that, again, this resonates with so many folks. You know, people that thought it was a fluke or wanted it to be one. You can't really say that now. And yeah, to your point, like, this is these numbers are unprecedented by themselves, let alone doing them together. So it's tough, you know, because I look at it like, wow, you know, and I don't really have a lot of time to bask in it because I got to get right back to work. I'm looking at it like, well, this is telling me that the demand's here, so I got to keep being great, and I just get more inspired the higher that number goes to get back to creating, you know. Writing all night, and you know, we're already working on ISOM 3 and you know, the other books that we have in the works and stuff. That's kind of how I view it, in that I'm thankful, but I don't have a whole lot of time to bask. It's like, okay, well, the demand's there, they are expecting work and of quality. I got to get back to work, but it's a position that I recognize I'm blessed to be in. Again, thankful to be in, and again, just overall, just happy and stoked on life, just in general, to be able to wake up and do something it is that I love, and also again being part of these solutions within industry issues, things that I feel like have plagued this industry, and us being able to fix those through action, through creation, through the economics of just operating as a business as ourselves. So it's been surreal, man.
I think that's a really significant point. Like, this is about the people. This is about the demand being there. There's been a lot of issues in the industry, in the mainstream, building up to this, and this is like pent up. And you would just put yourself right there to meet that huge demand that's been overflowing for so long. I just want to jump into the chat real quick, say hi to the people who are here joining us today. We've got Wilberforce Wooster. He says, hi, Eric. F off while red, of course. And we've got Caleb. Can't wait for this interview to start. Alasmat, Linkovich, Chamovsky, Hail the Lore, Anarcha, Rika, Alaskan Nut. These are a lot of people here showing out. 80 viewers right now live. So definitely the people are behind you for this project.
Absolutely. And again, they're the reasons why I do this. All these guys that are, showing their support, and we're giving them, it's obviously we're giving them what it is they want. But everybody took kind of a leap with that first book. I had to present it in a way that people wanted. I had to make sure that I'm giving people what it is they wanted. But at the end of the day, with no background as far as the actual, story, it's kind of a leap. So for people to respond the way that they did, and it's telling of the quality of the work as well, that they came back and they were like, okay, we want number 2, and number 2 is on this way. Man, we're just a week out from starting the fulfillment on that. So it's just, they're the reasons why I do it. All the customers, the great people that have shown so much love to me over the years, and the new ones that we've met certainly along the way, and that we've in just launching ISOM too. That's what this is about. To see people that are just genuinely enthusiastic about comics. That's what this is about.
You crafted a list of principles that you want the Rippaverse to adhere to, essentially, as you build up this universe, starting with everything that you introduced in ISOM 1, which was a really, I think, thick, dense read. People don't appreciate exactly how much you established in that very first issue. And going forward, all the principles that you put into the edicts that you want to have the Rippaverse adhere to, how did you feel that the customer's demands would be met by those items that you listed there, and the ways that they've been disappointed by the mainstream by not adhering to the things that you spelled out very explicitly for them?
Man, that list, I wanted to, it was one of those things where I wanted to present something that the audience could hold us to, so it forces us as writers and as creatives to really make sure that we are holding our end of the bargain. But also, the reason why they exist is I look at the landscape of this industry, and those issues, as as a customer, would frustrate me. So the constant reboots, the lack of just any sort of comprehension, cohesiveness among these stories, and of course we know the respect the customer thing stems from how it seems like a lot of people that are in control of these characters nowadays, that people have known and loved, they have like contempt for their audience. So for me, it's something that we have to stick to, but it's also an actual issue that has plagued this industry, and we are going out of our way to say we're not going to do that. We're not going to do that. And if we do that, we are going back on our principles, and we expect to lose support. We expect to lose support because of that. So it's an important thing, obviously, but it's not random. To your point, it is something that's thorough and detailed, and those are in every single book that it is that we release. We dedicate a page for that Rippaverse code of ethics, because I want people to see that no matter when they read this stuff, and they have to hold us to that, or they should hold us to that. In any event that we go back on that, we expected to see a decline, and as we should, rightfully so.
Have you been a lifelong reader of comic books?
Oh yeah, most definitely, lifelong reader. And as I became an adult, obviously being able to afford it a lot more than what I could when I was a youngster.
Mm-hmm. And you saw this evolution of comics eventually disrespecting the customers and not respecting the lore of the older books that you grew up with.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, it's people nowadays, you have controlling characters that they probably have no business, not probably, they certainly have no business writing, because they don't understand it. They're just used nowadays as a vehicle to do their own thing. And the only time people would ever listen to those stories is if they're funneled through characters that people already recognize, and they're smart enough to understand that. So you often have characters talking out of pocket, out of order, not really to their personality and what has already been established, because world is just a reflection of the writer. And I that to me is just, you're disrespecting your customers by doing stuff like that, because you're basically telling long time readers that everything that they read didn't matter. It's this version of the character, and they expect you to buy into it, and that's an irrational expectation as far as I'm concerned.
What were some of your favorite titles growing up?
Well, man, Flash, obviously. Well, while it was Flash and I was growing up, that was what got me into comics. As far as, my mother introduced me to Flash, and that's what did it. So, learning about Flash, he was a character that obviously was fast, and I was a sprinter growing up. Did that all the way through actually the collegiate level. So that was my way of resonating as I grew up. However, it became more of the Batman stuff, that I kind of gravitated towards, Bat Family related stuff, namely Bat Family stuff. Obviously in the 90s, Chuck Dixon, you couldn't get away from him. So a lot of his stories are stories that I was reading between these various other characters, Nightwing or just everybody within the Bat Family some way, and even with the Birds of Prey, reading some of those characters. So it's like you start one place, kind of end up another as you start to figure out the world. And that's why Batman sort of resonated with me more as an adult than what Flash did when I was in comparison to a kid. But that's where I floated around much, but I never had an allegiance or anything. I know those I just named 2 DC characters, but I read a lot of Marvel comics growing up as well. And it was never one or the other for me. It was more both.
And the wokeness problem, the problem with disrespecting the lore of these characters, that kind of crosses over between both companies. It's Marvel and DC guilty of the same sins right now. Do you think the industry feels threatened by you? I notice a lot of people who are in the industry constantly attacking you on Twitter.
Well, I think that the threat is more in that I think the idea of how we do business catching on, I think is I think if anything that they're more afraid of. I will say this: the status quo will always be protected by those types, because that's the only way that they can really guarantee that they may have a position there. Any event that the status quo and how comic books are generally done is upended, there might not be a spot for a lot of these guys. A lot of it's just perceived legitimacy. As you hear me use that term all the time. So just in how we do things and being completely detached from these people and their distributors and everything, I think is more what these guys have problems with. We had a Comic Pro going after vendors work with mine, and those are tactics that don't generally work on people like us, because we're so detached from the established channels, so we don't have to really worry about that stuff. So I think that if there is to be them to be threatened, or they feel threatened, it's because of that. It's like, hey, this is alternative, this is new, this is something that if this caught on, do they have a spot? And you can start to feel that, where they feel like their ideological enemies are able to produce comics without fear of cancellation and without fear of having to have their entire business derailed because of some a campaign that was really ran against them. we're foolproof in that regard. So pretty much, there's nothing they can do. What are you going to come out our distributor? Well, we're our own distributor. You can't come out the publisher. We're our own publisher. So I think that is the frustration. It's the inability to stop it. And if that as a tactic catches on, they're in trouble.
And it seems like it's mostly creators who do have a sense of grandiose and self-importance. Perceived legitimacy is the way you put it. Like one in particular, I guess I'd like to emphasize here is Mark Brooks. He had a little back and forth with you going into San Diego Comic-Con, asking whether or not you two would be able to meet up and shake hands and, you know, kind of be cordial and respectful. But then he decided to pull back and said, you know, stay away from him. I don't know what exactly he has in terms of an issue with you and Gabe, because like it's something that seems to kind of pop up occasionally on his Twitter feed. Did he actually come up to you guys and say hello during San Diego Comic-Con?
No. He didn't do any of that. He wasn't going to do that. And, you know, the man said, you know, I'm respectful of that. The man said, you know, once I asked him if he was going to be there, and the man said, he acted like, oh, it was cool, we could talk. And then 17 minutes later, he like, oh, no, don't do it. And I was like, all right, well, you know, I'm not going to just run up on someone that doesn't want to be ran up on like that. That's just not how I roll. But no, he didn't come up to say anything to myself. And I don't anticipate really any of these guys ever doing that. It's one of those, hey, I show up, they either pretend like I'm not there, or it's all love. It's generally how it does. So for me, it's for me, it's like I'm there to show love. If I go to an event and all this stuff that happens on yapping and all that goofy stuff that we see on Twitter and that's all contained to that stuff. Generally, we don't have those problems when I go to cons or when I'm out in public or doing anything. That's something that's just contained to kind of this loud minority of people.
Yeah, it was weird that he seemed open to actually engaging with you on a friendly level, and then quickly turned around. I don't know if he was maybe looking for work, you know, because like you're the hot scene right now.
So. Well, yeah, we're paying better. None of those guys over there are getting like, there's nothing that those guys are getting paid over there doing work for the big dogs that they're able to get more money from than what I can give them offer. They're not getting paid like that over there. So and all our artists and writers can speak to that. So yeah, if people want to actually get paid, they know where to go if that's what they want to do.
Yeah, I mean, and they're also it's also the place to go to get recognized. Right now, you're working with like a lot of really big name creators. Rippaverse is blowing up. You've got a ton of projects in the pipeline. You mentioned Chuck Dixon. I know he's writing stuff for you. So, are there any other things that you could tease for us and let us know what other big names you could be?
Well, we do have tomorrow. We will be announcing who the artist for that Chuck Dixon books, the Alpha Core book, will be. That'll be announced tomorrow. That is another person I know people are going to get stoked on. Of course, we got Jen and Sylvia Saska that are working on other work. Yaira 1 being their first work. They're working on Yaira 2 as well. So there's some other. We got a bunch of guys that you know we're having conversations with as well. That we have some announcements. You know, and I'm also picking up on who the audience would love for us to work for. There's going to be a lot of opportunity as this company continues to grow. And if there's a certain type of style of writer that people are digging, and it makes sense for us to bring them on, as long as they're not a hack, that's my only requirement. If they good, they good. I'm good, you know. And I would love to work with some. And definitely, there's people that you know have been around forever, and they may have gotten either blacklisted by the industry or people that they're not getting work as much anymore because the industry is trending again towards people that don't really know what they're doing. I love to see who those writers are, artists are, and work with them in the event that there's some potential there.
I know you said that the announcement is tomorrow, but can you give us a teaser, maybe just a little hint of who the artist might be?
No, let's just say this. It's going to be a big one. I can say that much. It's not just some random person. Let's just say that.
Okay, so it's a big name that we all know.
Yeah, it'll be a name that people will for sure be familiar with.
Cool. Yeah, you've had big names already working on your projects too. Like you had a Shane Davis cover. You got a cover from Ethan Van Sciver. So definitely not adverse to bringing in the big names to work on the projects pony up the big bucks to get the big quality work, basically. You mentioned that you were looking for smaller creators. There are lists going around. I might share one here. I don't know if you know this name, Narwhal. We've got a bunch of great up-and-coming, thirsty, young, hungry creators in CG. And there's a forum, apparently, for different Rippaverse, potential young creators joining in. And so he was asking for people to submit his name, of course. Couple of other names are Vonster, if you've ever heard of him. He's got like an amazing book coming out. Phil Diaz, like it's just an endless list of like new and up and coming creators in CG. Definitely untapped potential there.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's plenty of that. The same with artists. I mean, we learned in that with the fan art contest. Just the amount of kind of low key guys that are just really now hopping up on the scene. And that's awesome. That's what it's about, discovering talent and putting them in the best positions to succeed for this company is what that we want to do. It's having a nice mix of creative talent that has been established and been around, as well as guys that are diamond in the roughs, and they're just looking for that opportunity to really break through. And I think there's a spot for both of those types in this for the Rippaverse, and that's what it's about. Both old and new guys that have been around, veterans, as well as newer talents, let's say that, up and coming talents. I think there's room for it all.
It's all about driving that creative energy with like guidance and wisdom, but then also like young, raw talent, people who are thirsty to prove themselves and establish their names. What's your grand vision for the Rippaverse? What do you see? Because when I read the first ISOM, you established Avery, Yari, Alpha Core, Norfolka. There was a lot of components in that book, a lot of things that could be explored into different directions. And I don't know, in your mind, the grand scheme of things, like what do you envision 2 years from now, Rippaverse to really be?
Well, I mean, 2 years, obviously, we're going to have several books under our belt. And for me, I just want that universe, this universe to be like expanding and other, kind of detaching stories, and have several of those kind of operating on their own kind of wavelength, if that makes sense. We have this ever expanding universe that we're going to have, but not every character needs to cross over. Not every character needs to know each other. And there's so many different types of styles of stories and genres and everything it is that we can tell. And I want those to be at least launched. You know what I mean? So really there's going to be something for every kind of comic book guy or gal or whatever that would be able to read or have a story that they can keep up with, or types of characters that they're going to be able to keep up with. So, getting that foundation for the comics, I think is big. We're dipping our toes in other things, got the animation with Rippaverse Studios and everything, but it all starts with the comics. So, the way that I see it 2 or 3 years from now is just having these other characters and having a better idea of which ones are the ones that people love, which ones are the ones that people that are more niche, that people are, again, thoroughly enjoy. I'm really intrigued by who is going to be you're going to have that hardcore fan base that likes this. It might not be that many of them, but they really rock with it. They'll buy every book that this character it appears in. I'm intrigued to find out and learn and pick up that from the audience. But either way, we want to make sure that we're offering some level of different types of stories for types of characters that will at least resonate with somebody. That way they have something that they can go to as an outlet for the Rippaverse.
So you are trying to cater to as many possible tastes as possible, exploring different themes, different aspects of the characters. You don't want this to be very narrow in scope and only for a specific audience. You're trying to bring in as many different people, as many different voices as possible as well.
Yeah, I think there's room for it all. I mean, I do think that the demand is the demand, and you got to make sure you're writing to an audience, an actual audience that will actually be buyers. And it's identifying that market may not be the easiest thing ever, but yeah, there is a level of familiarity that comes with like the characters like an ISOM. Definitely guys that's a character that people that read books are familiar with comic books, superhero comic books. They can, hey, that's something that they can get down with, new ones as well. But then you're gonna have those characters that may be a little more obscure, maybe have a little more to them, that is a different change of pace. Like Bloodroot, the new characters is getting introduced, different change of pace than what an ISOM is, and we want to be able to tell those types of stories, and this is why it's important to have like even other talent that can see that through. I look at like a character like a character like like Yaira, you know what I mean? Like that's a different beat. She's a little cutthroat. She's a little different from let's say a traditional character like that in the superhero realm. And that made a lot of sense for the Saska sisters to write that character. And that's really what my job here is to do, not only just be the creative kind of director here, and facilitating and creating, but I also have to put writers and artists in a position to succeed in giving them the hand and glove fit. Like Alpha Core makes sense for Chuck Dixon, right? That's right up his alley. And we want to make sure again we have characters that those types of stories can be told. Now we're in the business of making money, so we have to give it to somebody that wants to read it. But yeah, we want to expand where we realistically can, if that means that it's meeting an actual demand.
For the main character, Avery, how much do you identify with him, and how much of yourself did you try to put into that character, or did you feel like you were writing it from a very detached third person kind of perspective, or did you try to identify with him, make it personal?
It was more of what I picked up growing up, that was less me and more like what I observed, if that makes sense. Like even the city of like a florist park, and how it kind of it's this massive city, and he stays on the outside of it. This is stuff that I picked up just growing up and being bouncing between Texas and Arkansas, and like more of a observation than anything. So less of my experience, because like I didn't grow up on a ranch or anything like that, but I had family members that did, you know what I mean? So I picked up different things from even from his attitude, from things that I observed growing up. So it was a detached way of writing, but it was also an educated way, as far as what I picked up from his personality, and it was something that I was familiar with, though not as individual, more so in what it is that I picked up, again, just being just observation in my actual upbringing. So for that character, it was it was all almost a reflection of what I had saw and what I had picked up over the years, and I meshed it all together, and some from this person, a type of this person as a member of my family, this person, that person, and I kind of just meshed it all together and took aspects of again things that I was familiar with, and that's how we came up with the character of Avery Silman.
If you had to pick out somebody though that he reminded you of, who would you say that would be from your
it's hard.
experiences?
That's very difficult to say, because I don't think that there's a one person. Like I said, just I will say from my family member on my mother's side, more specifically, a lot of those guys grew up in the actual country, again in Arkansas, and picking up from like specifically my uncle, and he had his own little deal, horses and all that sort of stuff, and I was there every summer, same with my grandmother, and being over there all the time, every summer, and we're talking like going to the country, we shucking corn, that was what I would do. I actually lived out there for a year as well. So again, a lot of that stuff is observational, because I can't call it my experience by any means. but I saw it. I saw it firsthand, and I guess in some kind of ways, if not loosely, had it in terms of an experience. But it was, like I say, it was a more of just picking up from stories, things that I observed, and I just meshed them all together. And like I said, I came up with that character.
You do draw from your personal experiences, though, for most of your writing. So you try to take inspiration from things you've seen in your life, people you've known, people that inspired you, role models, things like that.
Well, for sure. I mean, absolutely. That's a thing that you look to, and as a means of like inspiration, and that also allows you to connect with those characters it is that you're writing, and fleshing them out in a way that's going to be appealing to the audience, because they pick up on the fact that you actually you can understand the character yourself. You understand the experience, and that's very, very telling in how thorough your writing is. So for me, absolutely. I mean, I pick up on this stuff through what I have observed and what it is that I've experienced from the people that I have met, certainly along the way, and how these characters interact even with each other is tempers flare and that kind of thing, and how certain I don't know, I guess like personality traits maybe are incompatible, and how that can lead to conflict. This is all stuff that I pick up on, every individual picks up on, and I just kind of use that as a means to kind of influence, because it's a very real, grounded way to understand these characters. Even if they have these extravagant abilities and things that they can do, it's something that'll resonate with other people, because you're at least seeing something that is familiar. And not only that, it's something that pretty much every walk of life, let's say, can get something from.
I mean, a lot of people, based on everything you've accomplished, look at you as like an example, and they admire everything that you're doing, especially the road that you traveled. You're a hero to a lot of people. But in your life, who would you say was your hero growing up?
I mean, outside of people that I've learned about, you know what I mean? It would have to be obviously my mother, considering all the sacrifices and everything that she had done to kind of put me in the best position to succeed. And often, my upbringing was a little, let's say, there's a lot of turmoil there for sure. But, she did everything it is that she realistically could. And this is why I'm going to put her house on the hill and let her live out the rest of her life, because that's everything it is that she deserves. But on the other hand, I look at like other folks, like the Thomas Sowells of the world, and Walter E. Williams of the world, which people have heard me mention those two names as names of people whose work I've read. And I've had to connect with them in some way, shape, or form. I got to meet Walter E. Williams, Dr. Walter E. Williams, rest in peace, before he passed, as well as Thomas Sowell. I'm actually speaking. I spoke on his documentary from my perspective, again, of what this man meant to me. So, reading their work and understanding kind of their approach and seeing their talks kind of help form, definitely with the economics and how I view economy, was shaped in a lot of ways from their lectures and what it is that they were kind of trying to portray, be it in their talks or the books it is that I have on that shelf back there. So outside of just general family members, if I have to have one, you can pick one or two of those guys or both. And as far as their inspiration, again, thankfully I was in a position to at least tell both of them how much they certainly meant to me.
Why did, when you read Sowell and Williams, why did that resonate so strongly with you? Economic philosophy, how did you relate that to your own personal life and personal experiences, that you took that baton and, decided to carry it forward, carrying their message and being somebody who's a spokesperson for those economic philosophies?
Well, I mean, I came out of, I used to be a leftist, and, it was their work that kind of got me out of that line of thinking. I remember wanting to know about Black economists and all that when I was still stuck in this sort of ideological box. And I learned about the likes of both of those. And it was because economics in itself was an intriguing subject matter. You know, to me, I grew up in, the Texas heat of the whole, selling mixtapes out the trunk. You know what I mean? So that was really my first way doing business, was in the rap game, like that. But that turned into, just having an overall intrigue for how making money and doing it the legitimate way. And like, in order to kind of do that, I think it's important that you understand economy and economics, and definitely economics is a study of human action. I know that's less Sowell and Walter Williams and more of Mises and the Austrian style of economics. But I don't go that route unless I'm reading some of their work, like Basic Economics by Thomas Sowell, which again, that work in itself just changed my perspective on everything. Just understanding the concept of what scarcity is changed so much. So it was, reading those guys and just changed so much. It's changed so much of my approach, and thank God I found out about them.
Did you see a lot of what they wrote about reflected in the way you grew up and misinterpretations you had that brought you to leftism and made you decide to leave it eventually?
Well, I mean, yeah, there's certainly, I mean, Sowell for sure. I mean, he says that, he's like basically a flat out Marxist at one point. So, they had both of them, for that matter, in terms of their upbringing. There was some crossover there. There was some similarities there, and they came out thinking the way that they did. And for each individual, it's always something different as far as what like lit that fuse, right? What was it that made them think themselves differently and start to want to learn more about it, about the subject, even matter of economics. So, for me, those guys, I think that's maybe why I resonated a little bit with it, particularly Sowell like that. Definitely with him being a former Marxist, resonated with them. And like I said, the work in itself, though, it's just undeniable. It's just undeniable.
What lit that fuse for you? I think I read that you were a volunteer for Obama's campaign, and it seemed like you were on that left leaning route for quite a while in your life. But
oh yeah, most definitely. That's 100% true. That's where I kind of came from. Well, for me, it was, I always say that I got shamed out of like it because, just like a lot of other young people, you take positions that you don't really know about. It's a position that everybody else takes, or it's convenient for you to take maybe at the time. And that's more of kind of how I looked at it. It was less that I knew what the hell that I was talking about, and more like, this is what I'm told to kind of say. And you get to losing arguments on campus, and you realize you're not as educated on these subject matters, and that's really where it started. Shame, being shamed out of my position, or shamed into at least learning more, I think, to be more accurate, about the subject matters from which I would discuss all the time and spoke so aggressively about. So that was what it was for me. It's different for everybody, but yeah, I didn't get to the position by way of logic. So I got shamed out of my position, or shamed, let's say, into learning more.
who were the people that were having those discussions with you, opening your eyes, basically?
Yeah, I mean, I used to have those discussions with, like I said, it was just random people on campus and stuff. When I was, again, that was during Obama years, the first Obama years, 2007, 08. That go around, and you have these conversations with people that, even them, they're not that much more educated than you are, but at least they seem to know more. And it's like you've seen these men on the streets conversations with that they have with some of these college age folk, and they're like deers in the headlight. You know what I mean? Like, they don't know anything. They don't really know jack. It's just a position that they were told to have, or it's convenient to have because it requires the less conflict, right? Because that's the position that everybody for the most part adopts. And I was very well that guy. I was very, very well a guy that just didn't know. So for me, it was like, how about I start to learn about subject matters before speaking so loudly? And then again, you find as you learn, you're like, wait a minute, all the stuff that I thought I knew just happened to be horse crap.
You sound like you were a young man, always fighting to be on the positive route and like looking for truth and looking to do the right thing. You were selling mixtapes. You went to college, and you even engaged with people that would disagree with you and were willing to have your mind open to the possibility of being wrong. Was that a struggle growing up? Did your friends also follow the same route, or did you feel like you were maybe at odds a little with
Well, I
your
was
environment?
always an oddball, like wherever I was a loner for sure. Even though I was known just because I was an athlete and what all the goofy things it was that I was doing. So but yeah, I certainly was I wasn't afraid to have a conversation with just about generally anybody. I mean, I think that can be said also now, as well. So, I think it's funny because a lot of my idiot detractors, they tried to perpetuate this idea that, well, criticism can't be handled, and it's like it's obviously nonsense. It's just that I reject stupidity, and in doing so, I have no issues, and I think I've indicated this in a million ways. No issues, and I will be willing to concede that someone sees something differently than what I see it. It's just I think some people overvalue their own individual opinions, and that's where they get messed up. And that they think that their opinion is far more valuable than what it actually is, certainly to other people, and it hurts their little feelings when people reject it. So for me, I'm not like that though. I don't get bent out of shape about definitely now and when I was younger, like I said, I got shamed out of a position, so it's nothing to me for me to be like, yeah, okay, I either got it wrong, or for me to be like, well, someone sees something differently than what I see it. You know what I mean? Like, I have no issues with that, but wrong is wrong, and there's certain subject matters that are more objective than there are others than they are subjective, and I do think it's important to decipher between, be able to determine the two.
So you were always able to reject wrong think or bad influences just with your critical thinking and ability to analyze and identify when somebody was, giving you bullshit, basically, and recognizing it for what it is.
Well, I mean, to a certain degree. I mean, there was still well, when I was really young, like I said, when I was younger politically, there was still a convenience element about it. But like I said, I was green. Let's say that I wasn't really ripe. I wasn't well knowledgeable. I wouldn't know any of that on various subject matters. Like I said, it wasn't really until I got to college to where I started like seeing other viewpoints that were, certainly differing politically, and people being able to really defend those that were of my age group. Like, that was the first kind of time that I really experienced that. But like I said, it was nothing for me to be like, okay, well, I don't know about this stuff. I probably should learn more about it. I do think that was a trait that I at least I had to have, I guess, in some kind of way to get to my line of thinking now. So even if I had came in to something with the wrong ideas, at least was open to certainly changing those when being presented with some sort of new information. And I think that's certainly important if you're going to learn. More importantly, if you're going to be speaking on things that like aggressively, certainly
Mhm.
like I was.
Did you get that perspective from your mother and from the relationship you had with her? Was she your example for bettering yourself in that way?
Well, I mean, yeah, my mother, I mean, for sure, yeah, absolutely. And I would say that, for me, what I picked up, if I'm to be completely honest, as far as a trait that stuck with me, was just the ability to work, more than it was just like uh anything else. That was the ability to my mother was a work, and still is, in a lot of ways, a absolute workhorse. And it wasn't nothing for her to work two jobs at a time, and like, go in very early, not coming home until, because she's working a night PM shift for her jobs. And she didn't complain. Like, it was never like
Mhm.
a thing where it was just a thing like she knew had to happen. It was never a complaint from her. And I certainly picked up a lot on that. And I think that's one thing that people don't see a lot of, is just how much I work even to this day. You don't get in the position that I get into without it. I'm not one of those guys that likes to try to finesse, try to do the absolute least. you know, to try to get the most out of that. That's not how it is that I operate. I have no problem. It's early mornings, late nights. For me, I'm an absolute workhorse. And if there is something that I picked up from my mother, as far as like what like kind of just stuck into me as far as my most valuable trait, it has to be that.
It had to have been admirable to see her sacrificing and doing what she had to do to take care of you and you know, the family. Did you also feel like it was difficult not having time with her because she was working so much?
I guess you could say that for sure. It's something that you don't really understand until you start to get older. But yeah, it was a lot of growing up on my own as well, because she was trying to do everything that she had to do. And that's, again, I was a knucklehead growing up for sure there. So, less about the time and more about, like, there was just certain things that she just absolutely could not do within her own capacity, because she just couldn't dedicate the time to it, and also because she just couldn't do it. So, you don't really see that when you're young, but certainly when you're older, you start to pick up on some of that, and you start to certainly pick up on those sacrifices it was that she was making. It's something that I've, as I age, definitely as I work more and more, I gain even more of an appreciation for what my mother was doing during that pocket of time, when she was working as hard as she was working. So it's something that I'm obviously very appreciative of, in terms of what it was that she was doing, and it just wasn't easy.
I think it's probably what drove a lot of your success. I mean, if you didn't work for it, you wouldn't have it, and it's clear that you've got the work ethic to get it done. Do you think of ever exploring those themes of sacrifice, hard work, broadening your perspectives on life in your books, in your works, and in your characters?
Absolutely. I think that's one of those, there's things that I want to entertain in comics. What I talk about, like a universal truth, right? There's things that are truthful no matter what, and even the most irrational people would at least recognize them, or at least should, as decent traits. And I think hard work is one of them. And I would love to certainly entertain those, and sacrifice, and all that. These are things that it's part of human capacity, you know what I mean, and what it really takes to be one. And I would love to entertain those concepts, and really have, certainly when you read ISOM 2, you pick up on some of that. It's a thrilling story, and I can't wait for people to read up on that as far as what's happening with ISOM. I don't want to give too much away, but I think a lot of people are going to thoroughly enjoy it.
You've got a lot of comments in the chat. Haters and lovers alike. I'm reading a little bit as you're talking. It's actually kind of funny. One person, he was asking what the bell symbol for the Rippaverse is, if you could describe it.
Well, it's a hat. Is more what it is. It's a hat. It's like, people know, obviously, myself, and now that I think about it, like, when have I not been, like, known for wearing some sort of ball cap? So it felt like the obvious thing to go with as far as a logo for the Rippaverse. And I really loved how it turned out.
Yeah, I mean, it resembles the old Flash hat, so it's clear that you were a fan of that character.
Yeah.
Let's see if there's anything else. The other thing I wanted to mention is, so we were talking earlier about everything that you've been doing, and you're trying to be a very positive figure, very uplifting for people in comics and people wanting to make comics, start their own businesses. You even had a how-to video recently about being an independent creator and ways to be successful for it. But for whatever reason, as you were saying, these D-listers, these detractors, they want to focus on just scandal with you. One recently was pointing out that because you had pictures with Kyle Rittenhouse, that somehow you were not worthy to be holding the position that you have. What do you say to these people who think that they're entitled to tell you exactly what kind of perspectives you should be holding, and what kind of position and status you should have in the comic industry for the viewpoints that you express?
Yeah, the way that I see it, it's two different types of people. It's those that are just, it's all like this person that you're mentioning here. That's more political, more ideological. It's more, they don't feel like a person like myself that does not have, let's say, these traditional or not traditional, more modern leftism, authoritarian leftism views being successful in an industry that they think they own. On the other hand, you have those who just feel like I'm completely undeserving of the support it is that I have, and that they start from that frustration. The common thing with both of them is that they work backwards. So it's they start from I need a reason to not like this guy, and or to try to diminish or devalue what it is that he's doing. So that's where the scrutiny, if you will, comes from. Things that would generally never be a problem with anybody else is an issue with me. Because again, they're working backwards. So, I'm having to explain this stuff to, like newcomers all the time. We get new guys that either, they stumbled across ISOM 1 or they saw people talking about it and they're like, what in the hell is going on? I see all these people that they're freaking out about, you and, worrying about this and worrying about that. And what is the big deal? And it's like, well, they're deranged. And more importantly, they're just working backwards. They're not looking at anything that I've done objectively. It's more, I want to either diminish or devalue what it is that he is doing, and I'm going to work backwards from there. That's where their starting point is. But that's to be expected. When you do what it is that we do, and you see the level of success it is that we have, you got to expect some level of scrutiny. It is kind of ridiculous, but it is what it is. You know what I mean? If it wasn't going to be me, it was going to be someone else either way. But that's the importance of this whole independence that we have and what we do is that really they don't matter. It's some stuff that I can get some little content out, make a little money on some YouTubes or something. But generally speaking, we don't answer to them. We answer to our customers. And as long as they're satisfied and as long as they're getting what it is that they want, that's all that matters. And make no mistake, most of the reception that we get has been definitely in real life. It's just generally positive. And that certainly is more valuable to me than some person that just don't like me.
And it always seems like it's people who aren't really relevant trying to gain relevance.
Oh, yeah.
By doing these attacks on you. Like, who cares about Mark Brooks? He's just a cover artist. Same thing with this guy, Tony Isabella, creator of Black Lightning. I don't even think I'm familiar with any of his work.
So outside of that, yeah, I mean, he hasn't really done. I think he created Misty Knight, I think, as well. But yeah, some of it has been stuff. We've dealt with that with YouTubers as well. It's like people that have been around and they feel like, again, you're undeserving of it. So they try to drum up some sort of like engagement or something to present themselves as if they're the good guys and you're the bad guys. That's just what happens. It's something that, now I've mentioned this before. I hate to get dark, but it's just the honest to God's truth. If you see anything comparable to our success, even if it's half of what it is that we saw, you need to be completely prepared for people working overtime to ruin everything it is you got because they're bitter and they're bastards. This is how it is. There's nothing you can do. You can be the nicest person in the world. You can be thoughtful. You can be friendly, because I'm rough around the edges, right? Other guys, are like just positive as all get out, and you're still going to be hated and scrutinized by some of these weirdos. It's just something that you need to anticipate. But you keep going because you got to remember who it is you're doing it for. I'm not doing it for Tony Isabella. I don't give a damn about what that guy has going. I'm doing this for my customers.
And you think when their customers see this and see how you're responding and the things that you're doing, are they actually hurting themselves in the end? Because now they're being presented with a positive alternative, and they see their creators acting like this, attacking people for no good reason. It's just going to draw them closer to towards the Rippaverse as an alternative.
Well, that's exactly what's happened. I mean, I couldn't tell you the amount of people, definitely some of these weirdos that have gone after me, that have had people that have been fans of their work that got tired of them talking about me, or tired of them doing something, or didn't know that they were like that. Or I once had respect for this person, because often this stuff is just completely unprovoked. And they just either attempt to come after me, or again, try to drum up some sort of plex between us. Look, definitely in this day and age where people are becoming, like, they're paying attention to where their money's going, right? So they want to know who it is that they're dealing with, what type of person it is that you are. So that's a terrible tactic to, like, go after me or try to drum up something. audience picks up on that, and they can definitely pick up on when you're doing it for like fake reasons or to try to drum up some sort of engagement. They can pick up on that, and it's not going to work out for you. They're going to pick up on that phoniness. You're not going to get an increase in sales if you have your own projects, or anything that you get is only going to be momentary anyway. It's not something that's going to be everlasting. So it's an overall stupid tactic, just in general, to try to like drum up some sort of issues, because if you are one of those guys trying to build up an audience, that'll turn a lot of people off, because they'll pick up on how fake it is.
And so you're taking over comics at this point. You're expanding Rippaverse into something that's going to rival with the mainstream. It's going to be a lot of characters, a lot of different flavors of storytelling there, something to appeal to every kind of audience. Have you considered your brand beyond comics? What other ventures are you thinking of branching out into?
Well, we have Rippaverse Studios, and we want to start doing more animation. We did have a what do you call it, benchmark goal, where we talked about doing more animation. So that's number one. We're already getting the ball rolling on some of that. But yeah, I'll go wherever this takes it. Cool merchandise items. If that turns into live action shorts, if it turns into we joke about the toy market and stuff. I've been humbled by that market, but I will go where this audience takes it. Where the demand is and what we can realistically afford is where I would go. Would it be a dream to be doing video games and other types of stuff? I would love to do that, but obviously we got to justify the spending and have it in the first place, because to create like something I want to create, I'm gonna need a lot more than $3.7 million. So we're gonna take our time. We're gonna be smart with our finances, but the answer to that is I will go wherever my audience wants me to go, or will, let's say, pay for me to go. Let's say that.
So you'd probably crowdfund new endeavors on your website and see how successful they are before venturing forward much more for each one.
It's hard to say. I don't know about crowdfunding, but I will for sure take a leap of faith and take a risk on, or let me say this, an educated risk. I won't take something where I just have no idea what's going to happen. I don't want to do that, but I will take educated risk and spend money, because that's the old saying, it take money to make money. It is to spend realistically, but I will take a risk if that's what makes sense, and we'll fill it out. And yeah, the good news about how it is that we operate is everything is housed on our own stuff. So whatever creative thing that we want to do and however we want to get our audience involved on that, no matter what that looks like in terms of monetization, we get to do that. We get to do whatever it is. Like, our imagination is really our only limitation there.
Cool. Let's check out, you've got an animated trailer here for the launch of ISOM 2. It's a sample of some of the work that you might be doing in the future. So.
Time is a fascinating thing. We often like to think of it as something that just is. But too many people let the past determine who they are. When true greatness is determined by how one deals with the present. So if I'm helping you, I have one condition.
Yeah. No more quitting.
Time is a gift, ISOM. What are you gonna do with yours?
That's definitely badass. So
Thank you. Appreciate that.
I think people should look forward to more in the future. Well, that's hitting the hour mark. I know you had work to do tonight. Any other topics that you would like to touch on before we wrap it up and say thank you for coming on?
Oh no, not at all, man. I mean, again, I appreciate you having me on, man. It's been a blast, man, and really some great questions on stuff that I don't really even get to dive into a lot, man. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, I really appreciated the chance to talk with you, especially, but then also to ask you a little bit about yourself, because you are a phenomenon in the indie crowdfund scene, and to see you come up the way that you have, I think people would really like to know, like, what kind of man is Eric July, and what examples can I draw from his life and his experiences to accomplish the things that he's done. So hearing you talk about, your time with your mother, seeing what she did for you, and going and spending time in the country, getting some exposure to that work ethic, you're striving for positivity throughout your life. I think that should be something that people look to when they decide exactly how they want to, conduct themselves and build up their names and their brands and their endeavors. It's all great stuff, and it's stuff that we'd love to hear more about, I think, in the future. So thank you very much for being open and talking about that with us. So appreciate it,
man. I appreciate you, man. Big time, man. Thank you so much.
All right, everybody. So that's the interview, and look forward to more from Eric July, Rippaverse. Have a good night.